Hi everyone, Savannah here, and today we're drawing a cute little snail relaxing on a mossy log. I'm using my free brush set, which the download link is below in the description, as well as a link to the free template and color palette over on my Patreon. Let's jump in. The first thing we always do in these videos is change that background, so go to Layer, select Background Color, and scroll up until you find the Snail color palette. We're going to change it to this dark blue color for that background. Now go ahead and create a new layer, bring it below the outline layer that I provided, grab that circle brush, and we're going to select this yellow color. We're going to work on adding in a base color for the snail. We'll work on adding details and everything like that as we go along, but for now we're just going to do the outline of the snail, fill in that color with that yellow, and then we'll continue on to the next step. And now let's add a new layer. We'll do the shell of the snail. I'm going to grab that dark brown color and I'm just going to do the same thing, trace the shell and then fill it in with the same dark color. And you'll notice as I'm going through this drawing and with any of my other videos, I'll turn that outline layer off once I have that general shape outlined. And I do that so that I can double check, does the shape of this look right to me? Do I need to tweak it or add any modification to it before I alpha lock and add those final details? And my brushes do have a slight color variation as you can see here. So they change a little bit of the color. We're going to blend this all out. It will look good in the end. So don't worry about it having multiple different tones. The reason I kind of created them that way is that it does bring in a lot of other tones into the drawing. So it's not just one color. You're already kind of rebuilding that in as you're coloring in the outlines as you're doing these drawings. And so don't worry too much about it. We're going to blend it. It's going to look great as we add in details. And now we're going to add a new layer, bring it below the snail layers that we just created. We're going to grab this mid dark brown color and we're going to fill in the log here. We will make it darker. It's not going to be this bright color, but I just want to add in this mid-tone color so that I can see where this log placement is before we add in those details. And now that we have the log filled in, we're going to alpha lock all of these layers. And essentially what that is going to do is as we're adding details to each of these objects, it's going to constrain those to the shapes of those objects. So we're going to work on the shell first, grab that mid-tone color that we use for the log, grab the circle blend brush, and we're going to start adding some light areas to the shell here to brighten it up and give it more of a contrast, have those highlights, have those shadows, so that it looks a little bit more well defined. As I'm filling in this color, I'm not worried too much about it blending in quite yet because I'm just kind of placing the color to see if it's where I want it to be. And then I'll go through and blend it. So with the circle blend brush, it's a very blendable brush. It's pressure sensitive. And so you'll see as I'm going from this very bright brown orangish color to the dark orange or the dark brown, I'm blending it very lightly with the presses here. You can also grab a color in between if you want, if it's too much of a difference, but they are pressure sensitive, so you can very lightly add in the contrasting colors there. So still with that mid-tone brown, I'm very lightly going over the shadow area. I want to lighten it up a little bit because it's very dark. I want to preserve that kind of darkness for the very edge shadow areas. And so I'm just lightening it up very lightly. You can still see that it is a little bit darker than the other area that we added the same color to because I'm doing very light presses here on my Apple Pencil. And then I am going to add even lighter color to the top here. I'm going to add this glow. You can see the overlay image, the final image here in the bottom left corner. I'm adding this final glow to the overall image. And so I want it to be very bright up against this part of the shell, and then we'll blend it out a little bit. And then because we did go a little bit lighter overall on this entire shell, I'm going to bring in more of that darker color. It did get a little bit lost here, so I just want to bring that a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit to give it a little bit more definition. And now we have the shell done, so we're going to work on the body of the snail here. I'm going to grab that brown orange color. It's called brown. It's really a lot more orangey. I'm going to start adding in some of this orange color here. I'm still using that circle blend brush, and so the harder I press with the brush, the more that orange is going to come through, and then the lighter you press, the more it's going to blend in with that yellow. So in some spots, I'm going very heavy-handed with it, where the shadows are going to form from the light coming down on top. And then I'm just going to very lightly kind of add in the orange in these other areas to bring some definition and contrast and interest to the snail here. So I'm kind of doing these little like wavy lines to add some contrast. I'll go over it with some yellow and just kind of keep going over between the orange and the yellow here. And then the same thing, I'm adding a little bit of this white color to it because again, it's going to be in that sunlight beam. And so I just want to lighten it up a little bit to reflect the light that's hitting it on this side. And I'm going to add just a little bit more white to the shell as well to brighten it up. And now we're going to work on the log. And so we're going to pull in quite a few different colors here. I'm going to do this dark color first. I'm just kind of dragging the pencil across just to add these markings. We're going to build up on this. We're going to make it look more like a log here as we add layers, but I'm just adding a bunch of browns, a bunch of greens, darker browns, lighter browns, just to this area because I want it to be a little bit mossy. I want it to have that little bit of green, but a little bit blue, just to give it some, different coloring. But we're gonna just keep building up with these colors and make it look more like a log. Now, once we have all those colors laid down, I'm going to increase the brush size and go over it with the darker brown, just very lightly. You don't want to press too hard because it will kind of go over all of those colors we just added, but this is going to help it make a look a little bit more like a log. I'm going to add some green here and there. This is where the moss is going to go. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of green, a little bit of lightness. Again, we're going to keep blending this out. There's that light that's shining down, so we want it to make it a little bit brighter here. But we're going to add some more mossiness to this, build up on this with different colors and layers and keep blending it out. And I am going to add a little bit of shadow underneath the snail because again, the light's coming from the top, so there will be a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to use that dark brown color here. And now I'm going to do a new layer and we're going to add some of the greenery here. I'm going to start with this yellow color, turn that outline layer back on so you can kind of see where you want to place it. I placed it a little bit kind of where it is, but also just added in what I felt like there should be, and then we'll build up on that. And I am still using that circle blend brush because I want them to be a little bit more airy. I don't want it to be so stark. So I'm using that circle blend brush. A little bit of pressure, not too much, but I'm adding in some of this greenery. We'll alpha lock it so that we can add in some color definition to it as well. Some more green and blend it into the log here as we continue on. And I'm going to just keep adding a little bit more moss to this area, to this log, and then we will kind of blend it in, like I mentioned, a little bit with the log so it looks more natural, but we're just going to add in some moss on this log, some other coloring definition, and then we'll move on to the background. Now let's go ahead and alpha lock and bring in some darker green colors here. Again, the log is rounded, so the edge on the bottom here is going to be darker than as you're going towards the top. So we want to bring those colors down a little bit. Now, one thing I'm going to do is grab some of that brown from the log that's where the moss is kind of touching in that spot, and just very lightly on the bottom of this greenery, add that color in. It's going to make it blend a little bit better. Looks like it's a little bit more natural, like that moss is growing in that log. So I'm just going to do that to all the pieces here. And now I am going to add a little bit more yellow to the top of the log here where that sunshine is going to be hitting. Not too much, just a little bit to lighten it up a little bit more. And then I'm going to pick up that brown color just to blend it out a little bit here. And then I'm going to do a few final touches here on the log before I move on to that background. Now I'm happy with that log, so let's go ahead and add a new layer, bring it to the bottom of all the other layers. Grab that darker greenish blue color, the square blend brush, and we're just going to add some color here and there in the background. I'm going to pull in some more of this darker green color here as well because it's going to be a little bit darker underneath. of where the log is, but we're just going to add in color here again. We will blend this all out at the end, so you don't have to be too perfect with this. It can be a little messy, so we're just going to add in some color. I'm lightening it up where I want the sunlight to come in, but everywhere else I'm kind of darkening it to make that really pop. Now we're going to add a little bit of this yellow sunlight to the area, and then we're going to do a Gaussian blur. So go click into adjustments, click in Gaussian blur, and drag it across until you get the blurred effect that you're looking for. Then add a new layer on top of all the other layers, and we're going to do the soft brush. That's a Procreate standard brush that comes with the program. And we're going to add some of that light glow here to this area, and then we will erase a little bit of it away from the snail because it's not going to glow over the entire snail because of the shape of it. So we're going to just erase bits and pieces here to make it look more realistic. And I'm mainly erasing where a lot of those shadows are because that's going to make them pop even more. You can keep a lot of that lightness on the lighter areas, but the erasing of the shadow area is going to make that pop even more. And the last thing we're going to do is just add some of these glowy dots. And so that's one of the brushes that I have in the brush pack. I'm just going to tap and put some around, changing the size, having a little bit of variation, just to give it a little bit more of a glowy effect. And then once you have that complete, we're going to bring the opacity down on this layer a little bit and change the blend mode. I did end up using the add blend mode, but I'm just kind of going through to show you the different options that you can do for this section. Any of these are fine. I just want it to be a little bit more glowy for my scene, and so that's why I went with the add. I turned down the opacity just a little bit more because it's still pretty bright. I didn't want to be as bright as it was, and so mess around with these settings, find what you like for that glow, and then once you have that set, then we are complete with this picture. And there we have our snail on our log. Thank you so much for following along. If you enjoyed this sketch, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this, and I'll see you all in that next video.